Welcome, everybody. We're so glad that even if you're not here on the live webinar, that you have an opportunity to participate with us, whether it's through the recording or live. We're really glad that you're able to join us. My name is Apio Hunter, and I'm joined by Pete Cossaboon and Ashley Sibyl, your co-hosts. Our other co-host, Sean Patrick, is actually in the UK and unable to join us. However, he did pre-record a segment that we are going to share with you this evening. And so I will each start off by telling you a little bit about ourselves. Pete, why don't we start with you?
Okay, well, let's see here. For my story, I didn't come out until I was in my mid to late 40s. I'm now 51 years old. And so I come from the generation where when I was like in my teen years, 17 to 18, being gay was actually a psychological disorder. And I also, at that time, had been in the South since junior high. So I guess I've been in the South maybe about 4 or 5 years. So I was very much indoctrinated into the idea that, being gay was extremely sinful and you're going to be cast into hell and all this kind of stuff. And you still sometimes hear that because I am very deep in the Bible Belt and I live in a very small little town. And so I didn't really think of being gay as really an option, so even though I get asked this all the time because I was actually married for 28 years. We were actually together for 25, so technically 28. But anyway, and I had a beautiful daughter who's now grown up and graduated and all that great stuff. So she's out there in the world. But people always ask me, they're like, well, did you know? And I'm like, I always knew that I was attracted, to the same sex, but I never thought that it was really a viable option. I never knew that it was really something that I could really do, that I could, I was about to say take advantage of. I didn't really kind of mean that in that way, but I didn't know it was a lifestyle that I could really lead. And so I think what happened for me was I tried to do I did everything like you're supposed to. I would, I got a job and I worked my way up, and then I bought a house, fixed it up, sold it, bought a house, fixed it up, sold it. I did the whole American thing. I tried to have the 2.5 kids in the station wagon with a Great Dane in the back, but knowing it wasn't really truly who I really was. There was always this self-hatred, and had a lot of problems with a weight gain. I would gain a lot of weight, and I would turn around and be able to lose it back. And so I did this whole crazy thing. And so in 2006, I actually had gastric bypass because I was tired of gaining and losing weight. The problem with that for me was that food was my addiction. Food was the way that I dealt. Food was my friend. Food was there when I was depressed. Food was there when I was happy. Food was there when I was bored. It was always food. And no longer did I have that to go to. And I also didn't have really a group of authentic friends that I could really go to either, because, the people that I hung around with, were, we don't know from the law of attraction, you draw in what you put out there. So I wasn't living authentically. So none of my friends were really living authentically either. So I didn't really have any true support. I didn't have any, I come from a family background of, I basically divorced my family when I was in my late 20s because there was just so much. I won't really go into it, but I was going to be the very first generation that stopped the abuse. And to be honest with you, I'm so glad I am, because I know what would have possibly happened to my daughter if I hadn't, but I really won't go into that. But, that happens, that happens a lot, I think, in the LGBTQ community. You hear about others that have had a lot of abuse. And I think it's because we disenfranchised, from the community. And so we're kind of like loners. And we tend to be really kind of easy prey. Plus, most of us are, good looking. And so that just kind of seems to happen to us. But anyway, to get back to my central story, so I had the gastric bypass, didn't have anything to really rely on as far as food or any kind of addiction. So I really kind of worked on destroying my own life. And I reached what I always call my lowest, highest point, where I literally lost everything, and all that I had left was just the core of my being and the beginning of my spiritual walk. And that's really where I started to become my true, authentic person, where I had lost everything, so I had no fear left anymore of losing anything or of what somebody might say to me or anything like that. And so I just started being me, and finding out who I was. And I started really expressing, I would say probably more of my feminine side. I started, dressing differently and acting differently. My wrist started doing the little this thing, and all this kind of stuff. And I just kind of owned it and did whatever I wanted to. And of course, Dan Savage, who is the sex expert, he says that when you first come out of the closet, you burst out of the closet. And when you first come out of the closet, the issue for people is that, when you first come out as your true authentic self in a sexual zone, you're like you're 13 years old again. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I kind of did some crazy things for about 2 months. And then I kind of got my balance. It's like, okay, we're not doing this anymore. But it was probably about a 2 or 3 year acclimation period before I really became, really figured out what being gay and all that kind of stuff was. Because when I had this concept of when I would first come out, that I'd have all these welcoming, loving arms, like, oh, come into the family. And then I was like, I found out that family, that community could be really almost more judgmental than anybody else can. But then again, with law of attraction, judgment comes from yourself. And I can say as of today that, as I've become comfortable in my own being, others are comfortable with me. And that's how I can, I truly, it's so interesting to me, because I was talking to a woman a few months back for a business thing that I was doing. And she found out that I was from a small town in the South. And she asked me, she said, so how is that for you? And I didn't really understand what she meant till about 15, 20 minutes later. I was driving down the road. I was like, oh, she means because I'm gay, and I honestly, could tell her that I really have absolutely no issues. I mean, one of my jobs that I had, I was going out in the absolute middle of nowhere talking to farmers and all kinds of different people, and never ever had a problem. I mean, I drive a white Prius. I mean, how gay can I get? What I mean? It's like, but I've really come to a different kind of a zenith point in my life now, where I've decided to start bringing back in some of my masculinity, because it's like I've expressed enough of my feminine side. Now, of course, you can see how I'm dressed. I'm always, I spend a lot on fashion. Okay, I'm willing to say it. And I usually need to have at least one piece of Calvin Klein touching me at all times, whether it's a shirt or whatever it is. So I'm still expressing that, but I'm starting to learn how to kind of bring that back in. I've been on a real journey of working out, a lot, and I've seen like real changes in my body because of my my trainer Josh Vinson. Love you, Josh. And it's so wonderful, because in the past year, I've been so surrounded by just so many people that embrace me and love me for who I am. And as I express myself authentically and am just pouring out the love that just comes through me, because Pete loves Pete, and Pete doesn't love Pete in such a way that he has to tear you down to feel good. Pete loves you too. So it's so wonderful to come from that space of self-love, which I'm then able to pour out to love for others. And I just cannot express how just wonderful and fabulous life is. I mean, my old life, it used to be where I just kind of trudged through until it was time to maybe like go on vacation, or trudge through until Christmas Day, or trudge through to whatever that day was that I was thinking, today's the day I live, to where now I'm literally living in every moment. And I'm learning that every experience comes to me out of love. And it's my decision about whether I get to enjoy that moment or whether I get to judge that moment. And it's, we are surrounded by everybody that we come in contact with are angels, and every circumstance that we find ourselves in it comes to us out of love, to either let us express joy through it, or to learn from it and learn what it is that we truly, want in life, and where we want to go. So I can just say that, the key for me was to just, become authentically myself, and to stop letting fear stop me. I mean, I used to be such a creature of fear and anxiety and depression. They diagnosed me with absolutely everything, and they gave me all the pills and the whole 9 yards. And I've been through all the counselors. And I can tell you what worked for me was becoming spiritually connected. And I would like to say that, the shamans of old, and the leaders of the village tribesmen, of old, were from the LGBTQ community. We were at the forefront. We were the ones that showed society a different way of looking at things. We were able to cross that path. And that's so wonderful even for the LGBTQ community of today, because we don't have the social norms that are surrounded by most people. You know, we're able to think outside the box because we've always had to, because there's no pattern, there's no certain way that we're supposed to live or supposed to think or treat each other or treat ourselves. So we're able to kind of make it up as we go. And for most LGBTQ, and this is true for me as well, a lot of us end up having to make our own families because either our families aren't accepting or because there was abuse, you know, that came to us. Because like I say, we are easy prey. You know, I think that's becoming less and less so, but I think it's especially now in the transgender community. And I want to give a shout out to those people. And you know, I just love that more and more people are coming to the forefront and expressing who they truly are. And I just, you know, my heart goes out to them, and I want them to express themselves in whatever way that is honestly them, because that is where life begins, where love begins, and where it just all comes from. That is because all energy is love. That is the only energy that exists. And if it feels like less than love, it's because we are blocking the love that is coming to us at all moments. So I just, I feel like a love God today. That's the way I feel. So maybe I'll let somebody else talk, because Pete tends to talk a lot. I don't know.
I love it. No, that's great, and I appreciate you sharing your story and how you were able to reach that point of self-love. I know that's something that you're very, very passionate about, is being able to achieve love at any age.
Right. And you know, it's really interesting because I love to tell people how much I love myself, because I want to see how they react, because that's really something in the society that is like, you know, forbidden. You know, we're not supposed to talk about how much we love ourselves. We're not supposed to think of ourselves so high. You know, I hear so many times, especially in the spiritual community, about service and what's my purpose and why am I here, and I want to be of service to others. And I think that's fabulous. I actually do. But you're here to have joy. You know what I mean? So, and you can't give out to someone else what you don't have for yourself. You know, it's all about giving out of your overflow. And everybody has an overflow of something, whether it's time, love, being able to give somebody a call, maybe it's money, maybe it's an extra room in your home you can have, or, you know, whatever it is, a ride for somebody somewhere. Everybody has something in abundance, but that is the only thing that you should give out to somebody, because if you don't give out of your cup of abundance, you're giving out of something that you need, and then you're instantly going to be expecting that person to feed you back when you need it, and then they're not going to, I can guarantee it, and then you're going to be pissed off. And where does that leave everybody? And then you're usually just enabling somebody in them not being in their own true power. You know, when we try to like rescue people, number one, it's this really lofty position of like, you're not good enough to take care of yourself. You know what I mean? So we're really not loving people by trying to rescue them. Of course, you should be there for people and you should help them out of your abundance, but there's a real fine line between that and rescuing. Does that make sense, Appio?
That does, actually. Makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I have had many discussions about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you have such incredible insights and wonderful insights. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about you, is the fact that you not only radiate love, but you radiate that self-love. As you say, I mean, I've known you for a little bit of time now, and all the time that I've known you, you always make sure that you express that self-love. And you don't do it in a way that comes across as being conceited or egotistical or anything like that. You do so in a way that shows that it is genuine, true, unadulterated self-love. But at the same time, you also share and show that love extends to everyone.
That's absolutely true.
It's something I genuinely appreciate about you, Pete. So,
and I'm able to. It's so fun because my trainer, Josh Vinson, I will never stop talking about. He's a straight boy, but he's so hot. And every time I work out, I mean, when I get to the lowest point, I always say, "I love you, Josh," and that man tells me he loves me too. And that is, how incredible is that, to be in this working out gym with all these buff guys around you, and these two dudes, one straight and one gay, and I'm able to tell him I love him. And I mean, that's just, I don't know any other expression of how to just express how my life is now, and how just being authentic and being real and being able to connect with people, and just because the people that I'm attracting to myself now are the ones that fully accept me, and because they fully accept me, they fully accept themselves. You know what I mean? So when I talk about me a lot, it's because I'm also flipping the mirror, because I'm saying, the way you feel about yourself is the way you feel about others. And the way that others feel about me is the way that they feel about themselves. And mine is the only experience that I can speak from, but that's just, that's the truth. So
Right, indeed. And I think it's really important, particularly of those of us who who belong to the LGBTQ community, to understand that, and to be able to not just be at peace with ourselves, but be at peace with the world, and be at peace with ourselves as whole, complete human beings. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So why don't we bring in our other co-host, Sean, who, like I said, was unable to join us live, but he did pre-record his segment. I'll share that with you guys, and he'll be talking a little bit about his perspective as a gay millennial, and life, what it's like in the UK, the community, some perspectives about the community in the UK. For those of us who may not know Sean is also known by his alter ego, that guy who loves the universe. He's an amazing guy, and he truly does love the universe as well. Just exudes it every single day. We'll talk a little bit about what each of us are doing afterward. But so let's go ahead, and I am going to share my screen with everybody, and we'll take it from there. So hold on one second. I press the right buttons here to bring Sean on board. And here we go.
Hi, everybody. So this is a pre-recorded version of today's webinar. And today we're going to have Sean Patrick, that guy that loves the universe, with us. And he's going to talk to us about his experience in the LGBTQ community and how we can really bring peace to ourselves and to the world. So Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm so well. How are you doing today?
I'm really good. So you're coming all the way from England. Tell us where you are right now.
I'm in Liverpool in the UK. We're surprisingly not having a rainy day, which I really appreciate. And yeah, it's all good over here.
That's amazing. Yeah, because that's how y'all get all those beautiful roses and all that kind of stuff, is all that rain and all that water you
I
get.
know. I know. But you want to know what? I'd sacrifice the roses for a bit of sunshine, to be fair.
Yeah, would you?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to get some later this year. You're coming to America. You're going to come down south to the Florida and get like quite a different climate, aren't you?
I am, which I'm extremely excited about.
So us here in America, we have we're going to have like a worldwide audience, really, but I think a lot of our primary listeners are going to be in North America. So talk to us about what the LGBTQ community is like there in the UK, if you can.
Well, you know what? I'm 26 years old, and going through school and growing up in the era I did, I can honestly say from a first-hand perspective that it was extremely acceptable, that peers were comforting, and even older. So that's going back to like me with my immediate peer age group. But I've done work in high schools, since over the past few years, and I can see it only becoming stronger and so much more of a less issue. It's definitely a welcoming and accepted community from my experience here in the UK.
Oh, that's amazing. It really is. So is marriage equality there in UK?
Yeah, it sure is. Civil partnerships were a thing for as long as I can remember, but marriage equality came in a few years back, and there's never been any question, no trying to take it back, which has been fantastic.
I am so excited for you that you get to grow up in that, in a place where that is like so acceptable, because I'll talk about this later on for myself, but it's a real point for my generation, especially being in the South, where it's just this whole thing of self-acceptance because it was so unaccepted by society. So I'm so excited for you and for your generation and for everybody over there in the UK.
So yeah, thank you. I've never been to like the south of the states, so I don't know what the situation is there.
It's not too bad now, but I think you'll definitely feel it because you're going to be coming from the space where it's always been acceptable, and and I think probably even celebrated to some point there, right?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So I think the next step, at least in the North America, is going to be for the transgender community. Can you speak to that as how that is seen there in the UK?
Do you want to know what? Honestly, I don't know very much about that, but I think like so many people right now, I'm definitely interested in watching like the Bruce Jenner story. Like so many people, and he made a comment on the latest episode of the Kardashians called About Bruce, where it was featured about this change he's going through, and he said that he feels like the transgender community is at the same place the gay community was like 30 years ago,
That
which
is so
and so
interesting.
interesting. And what's so interesting about that is um, a lot more people then. I think we're going to be surprised at how many people actually are able to admit that they feel like they're in the wrong body. It's something I don't know much about, but something I'm excited to see liberated.
Oh wow, yes, I so totally agree with that. That's exactly my thoughts on it as well.
Mm.
What about like the drag community? How's the drag community over there?
Fun, like it is everywhere. That's all I can say. I know the UK is just about to have its first season of RuPaul's Drag Race,
Wow.
so we're all excited for that for sure.
Yeah, that is absolutely got to be one of my favorite TV shows for sure. And I think it's very interesting that you are that guy that loves the universe and you are in the LGBTQ community
Mm.
because, in the past, we were the shamans. We were the ones that kind of showed communities and villages what was possible and how you could change your thinking. So I love that. Do you think that's part of why you are where you are your space in life?
Yeah, definitely so. I think having to overcome adversity or even be around that possibility, my work is very much about, using spiritual practice or whatever practice involved to increase well-being. And, I'm also a psychologist and really and that's my research in that area. So of like well-being, flourishing, optimum happiness. So I think if you look at the gay community, there's that extra hurdle which needs to be overcome. Whether it's necessary, it's not necessary, it's a social construction. I mean, I don't know, but I know it's there. And I think if you grow up against that diversity, chances are you are going to have to put in that little bit extra work in later life to be as self-accepting, to be as self-loving as maybe the next person.
Right.
So that's definitely, as a 16-year-old picking up my first self-help book, as a 20-year-old getting really into this, looking more into spirituality, all to improve my own well-being and sense of satisfaction, has all been driven from having to overcome adversity. Yeah.
Hmm. In the community that you're in, do you see a lot of people turning to, drugs or sex that's probably not to their best advantage, or different things, you know what I
Mm,
mean, to make themselves feel better?
definitely.
Does that happen?
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting because there's an old stereotype or an old somewhat social obligation of that being a gay lifestyle.
Right.
Um, it was never on the table for me. It was kind of never on the. That's never kind of the route I went down or ever felt like I was going to go down. But it's definitely there. It definitely happens. I know if people who are going down that route are doing it for a sense of something, and that sense of something can be found elsewhere. I find it in spiritual well-being practice,
Mm.
but I'm not saying that's for everybody.
Right. So how do you marry? Because you've really got three different things going on. You've got the spirituality and you've got the
Mm.
LGBTQ, and then you're also a psychologist. Is that what you do for a
Yeah,
living?
I'm like a couple months off finishing my master's and being fully certified, so that's exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
A man of letters. I love it. So, but those are
Yeah.
really three different worlds. So how are you combining those three?
Oh, well, you want to know what? It's so interesting because they all kind of came in at right points. So I've been working on doing That Guy Who Loves the Universe with my first book and writing articles and kind of doing work in the spiritual world for the past 4 years. And it was coming out of that I chose. I wanted to go into psychology, but to go into psychology to specifically look at the links between spiritual practice, well-being, happiness. That's so they kind of both came to me and married each other, and I'm grateful they did. It's been a really fun ride learning all about the brain and the mind. It's been fantastic.
Mm, that's great. So now, how does your generation look at like relationships and that type of thing? Do y'all look at like having like primary relationships later in life, or do you find a lot of people really finding that, I mean, is it more monogamy, or how does that work in the millennial world?
Do you know, I definitely see a mix. I definitely see a mix. I mean, I'm 26. I had a few friends who have gotten married, not many. I'd say if we're going to go on an average here, I think most people will probably get married in their late 20s, early 30s. But I know one thing that my generation do differently than generations that came before, because I have older siblings and a sister particularly who just can't understand this. Like we meet someone and we go through a stage of, oh, I'm just seeing that person until they become your boyfriend or girlfriend. Whereas she would say, it used to just be like from the first date, that was the only person you saw then.
Mm, mm.
And I'm just like, no, what's that about? Like, yeah. And that's one thing, like, she's like, if I tell her about someone I'm seeing, she'll be like, so what's going on? I'm like, oh, I'm just seeing them. And she just doesn't understand that. She doesn't understand the difference between seeing someone, because that's just a new thing.
Right. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that makes total sense because you have so much freedom and you're able to do that. Why
Yeah.
not try some of the different fruits of the different trees? So
Yeah.
I completely, and plus it's so much easier for you to, find and relate to each other than it was in past lives. I mean, past generations. So I think that's a wonderful way to go. Well, so how do you have any ideas of how we can bring more peace to the LGBTQ community, and then I think be the forefront, because I really do believe that's the way the LGBTQ community has been in the past. I think that's what we can be in the future. How can we be the leaders of bringing peace to the world?
I think leading by example and showing, an incredible peace with ourselves, and definitely I think that this is definitely a grey area, but to look at not necessarily segregating ourselves as, gay world and straight world being two different universes. In my experience right now, it's so often intertwined and accepted. So just to be that example, to love and accept ourselves fully, be that example, not segregate ourselves, and and let that speak for itself. I
Mm,
think if you look at how far it's already came, whatever's happening, there's something right about it.
I love that. Were there any final words before we go today?
Just for everyone to understand that their own journey will be completely for them, completely personal. Um, Anything they get from this webinar, they get from our conversations. I'm sure everyone is intelligent enough to take it as they see fit and to implement it into their own lives as they can. And just make sure you're staying true to you and you're following your own bliss before you take on too many advice models. Make sure you're staying true to you.
I love it. So that's been Sean Patrick, that guy that loves the universe. How can people connect with you if they want to see more of your work?
So you can do a Facebook search for me at That Guy Who Loves the Universe. You can find me on Twitter at Hey Sean Patrick, or visit my website, thatguywholovestheuniverse.com.
Excellent. Well, we'll talk to you soon, Sean.
Thank you. Have a good night. Bye bye.
All right. Thank you so much, Pete and Sean, for that great conversation, very insightful conversation. And I hope everybody got something out of that as well. I really loved how Sean mentioned that it's important not to segregate ourselves. That's something I've always felt very strongly about as well, that, it's great to be able to feel like we are truly part of the community, wholly, completely, 100% part of the community. And as long as we see ourselves separate, then we're always going to feel separate. So by being able to bring ourselves together and feel fully integrated loving ourselves enough to feel that full integration, I think is really critical and important. So again, thank you so much to Sean and for you, Pete, for having done a fantastic lead in that conversation. Ashley, love to bring you on now and have you say hi to everybody. Tell us a little bit about you and give us your perspective about particularly, love, achieving peace with ourselves, with the world, and creating a life you love.
Thank you, Appio. Where you left off, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. You left off about feeling separate and, being the only female voice here. It's great to be with you guys. And I know that it's different for women than it is for men. We're different, and that's good because it makes the world go around and makes it all that much sweeter. But for me, I didn't come out until I was 23, and I before that I didn't have any issues in my life where I felt like I wasn't doing the right thing, or I didn't have any sort of difficulty time growing up. I actually had a fantastic childhood. I dated guys. I just thought I was, big time tomboy, and all my friends, we played sports and it worked, and I never felt like out of place. And at 23, I saw a woman who just literally shook me to the core, and I, in that split second, figured out that, oh my gosh, I'm gay. Like, it was really that quick. It happened in seconds for me. And when that happened, there was no option for me personally to ever be in a closet. It just wasn't, that wasn't the case for me. So literally within a couple of weeks, I just told everyone I knew. And I never actually was with that woman. We became really good friends. But I had sort of an interesting journey in that so that was 23. Well, at 18, 19, I had already started my own personal quest um, to make a difference in this world. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. And I came out to California from Louisiana. So, Pete, I'm right there with you in being in the South and being gay in the South and what that's like. But I was already in California when I came out. But I had witnessed what it was like for my brother, who had come out 5 or 6 years before me. And so here I was in California, where it was very accepting to be gay. And it, even though that was 19 years ago, I didn't struggle because I just felt supported. I had my brother in California who was gay and all his gay friends. And I was around a lot of gay men. And then I came out so it was pretty not easy, but it was.
Oops, looks like we might just be having some bandwidth issues here. Hold on.
Those conversations in the gay community, which was sort of, I didn't sort of know what to do with that. And so at that point, I kind of started living a compartmentalized life. And it wasn't because, it was sort of the opposite, but it was because I was really going through a lot of transformation in my life, but I didn't know how it fit in the gay community. And so I spent the next 23 till I was, I think, 34, 10, 11 years sort of living one way around people who got me and who I was on that path with. And then when I was in the gay community, I felt like, oh, I can't really have this conversation. So the idea of really being able to be who you are wherever you are and be and find a like centered place became the forefront, I guess, of what what became my message. You know, how do I become all of me everywhere? I don't want to be compartmentalized. I don't want to, like, I can't have these conversations over here because, well, it doesn't really fit, and I can't really be this person over here because that doesn't. I don't want to do that anymore. So the last, 7 years, 8 years have really been about, I want to be me everywhere. So it's interesting to be on this conversation right now, right? And it's for the LGBTQ community, which I completely embrace. I'm gay, I have a partner, I am all of that. And at the same time, I am me. And to me, that has been the greatest part of this journey for me, that the acceptance, it's like an ultimate acceptance that you can be who you really are to your core and not defined by I'm gay, I'm transgendered, I really want to be a man, I really want to dress up as a man, whatever it is that shows up for you, that is a part of you, but it does not define you. So for me, that's kind of where I am, and that's where my message is. And my whole Khalil campaign to you know help people create a life they love, to me, means loving your life exactly where you are, who you are, what you have to offer, and knowing that it is more than enough. You are enough. That's my message. And that's where I feel like I can be of most service. So as I continue this conversation and help others, step into, yeah, I'm gay, or whatever it is that you need to step into, and own it and know that, yeah, and I can have a fantastic life, an amazing life. There's no limits except for the limits we put on ourselves. And society has said what is quote unquote right, or again, I'm from the South, so there's a lot of crazy conversations about being gay and what's acceptable. And funny enough, my older sister came out of the closet, uh, shoot, 9 years ago. So we sort of came out. My brother came out 5 years later. I came out, and then another like 8 years she came out, or something like that. And it's been interesting as like a experiment just to watch the reaction, because you're talking about different generations of at different times coming out, and how my family, how other people have taken it, how each one of us are completely different. We're from the same family, but it's been a completely different experience for all three of us. And I always felt like I knew my sister was gay before I knew I was gay. And I mean, I just say all of that to really emphasize that we are all different. We're all different, and our journeys are different. And the sooner that we can embrace our path, my own special uniqueness, the gift that I am here to bring to people, to deliver, the sooner that I can just be in a line with that and be me everywhere, that whether I'm in a room full of gay people, straight people, whoever people, that I can completely just be me. That's really the bottom line. And that's what I want to help people get to. And I know that working with you guys, that I know that we can create that for people, and create an awesome platform that's just real. That's just being, be the real you. And we're going to just create a even more expanding community within this community. Because again, I'm part of a much bigger community called the universe. Because I don't know if we just talked to the guy who loved the universe, and I want the universal passport to really do big things. So I'm happy that we can be here having this conversation, and I'm happy that together we can create something that can help and support all the people who maybe people are listening to this and they know they're gay and they haven't come out yet, or they've come out and they don't know how to assimilate. and that they feel like they need to be a certain way, or I need to look like this, or I need to do it in this fashion. It's like, no, 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 no. You do you brilliantly, and the rest will follow. So my message is all about creating a life you love, and I'm just happy to be here and happy to be a part of this awesome team, and happy to help anyone and everyone be just authentically more themselves. So thank you, Appio. Thank you for being here and sort of hosting this for us.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. I love your message. I love your message. You know, and I guess that leads to me and to my own story, my own. It's interesting because we seem to have an entire range of experiences. We have Sean, who grew up in a very accepting family, very accepting community, very society where he was. He was really truly fortunate to have that particular experience. You and Pete grew up in the South, the Bible Belt. I'm not sure which is the buckle of the Bible Belt. Some people say it's Texas. Some people say it's Alabama. Don't know. But I grew up, I myself actually was born in California, but I was raised in Utah. And people, immediately I say the word Utah, and everybody immediately, it's like, the Mormons. How many wives did your dad have? Well, my great-great-grandfather had 4, just for the record. But I actually grew up in a deeply religious, conservative community as well. My experience with coming to terms with my own sexuality, and by the way, Ashley, I really love what you said, particularly about I see my sexuality as being part of who I am, but it does not define who I am. I've always felt the same way. It is part of my humanity, but first and foremost, I've always seen myself as a human being, albeit with a lot of trauma and drama that I personally created in my own life. My experience coming out was very challenging, very difficult. I came out when I was 17. Was madly in love with somebody I had met, and only to be told that it was merely a diversion. And so, in that trauma and that heartbreak, my mom just knew something was wrong, and so I decided to go ahead and come out at that time. And that kind of set in series into motion a series of events that created a conflict within my family, conflict within myself, and it culminated in me it's like, I don't want this. I want it taken away from me. I want to be accepted by everybody. I want to be accepted by my family. I want to be accepted by my church. I want to be accepted by my community. And dealing with so much of that pressure, it just reached a breaking point where I decided, it's like, I want something else. I desperately want something else. And that's when I was introduced to, at the time, back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was called reparative therapy. Nowadays, people refer to it as conversion therapy. Probably because when you use the term reparative therapy, it really, really has kind of a nasty ring to it. So those practitioners who still believe in it and who still are very adamant about, the conversion therapy, and they change the terminology so it doesn't sound so harsh. But the premise behind it is the same, that you are somehow broken, that something needs to be repaired, that you need to be converted back to a quote-unquote normal human being. I immersed myself completely in it. I believed that, yes, I could change my sexual orientation. Yes, I could get myself right with God again. I wanted that desperately. I wanted to be accepted by my community. I wanted to be accepted by my church, because I was being told that, the messages were always there. And Pete and Ashley, I'm sure that you've had similar, you were surrounded by that. And it was something that, I was surrounded by as well. And so I just reached a point where I, was a leader in the movement. I was very much involved. I was kind of held up as a poster boy of how you could pray the gay away successfully and so forth. But the truth is that that attraction always remained. And felt like, you know what, I want to be me. I want to be true to myself. After so much therapy, so much praying, I mean, gosh, my knees really probably at a very young age started developing arthritis just because I was on them praying so much. But my knees are fine now. But everything just really kind of came to a head, and I decided that, you know what, this isn't going away. So why not just embrace myself, and why not just accept myself? And that started a 2-decade journey. I'm actually 46, and it took me until I was in my late 30s to really reach a point where I could truly love myself, because I was still dealing with so much fear of how would my family react? How would my church react? How would the community react as a whole? And my message to everybody is, especially those who are dealing with that same fear, that same, but adopting that fear, is that it's possible. It is very much possible to reach a point where you can not only let go of the fear, but also love yourself and truly love yourself entirely, completely, and wholly. Now, I know every family is unique, and every individual is unique. Thank you, Ashley, for emphasizing that. Every circumstance is unique. But one thing that is universal that binds us all is that when we learn to let go of the fear that keeps us back and that keeps us from truly loving ourselves, and if we understand that those who are, as strange as this sounds, those who are motivated to try to convert us back, who talk a lot about, the Bible or scripture or whatever religion that you belong to, and very, very fiercely, committed to that ideology. In a strange way, they're motivated by love, because they don't want to see you cast to hell or be captivated by the devil or anything like that. There is fear-based love that's there, but it's still motivated by love. And if we can understand and forgive the people that are around us, whether it's our pastors, our community, people in our community, our neighbors, our family, if we can forgive them for being caught up in that fear as well, for having, and for continuing to be caught up in that fear. And then learn to just really just accept and love ourselves. It can be amazing. It can be an amazing transformative experience. I wish that for me it had been a shorter time frame, that it hadn't taken 2 decades for me to reach that point. But I'm also very grateful for every single step along the way. I'm grateful for every single experience that I had, because I would not be where I am now. I would not be speaking to you from where I am if it had not been for that experience and for that journey that I took. So just understand that there is as much fear out there as there is within you. And forgive them and love them for having that fear, and in spite of having that fear. And know that no matter what, that if you take those simple little baby steps to letting go of the fear and accepting yourself and loving yourself, that you will be surrounded, and that you will call in all the support and tools and people who truly love you. They'll all come to you. They will surround you, and you won't be alone. So just know that being at peace with yourself, being at peace with the world that is in transition is achievable. If somebody like me can spend 2 decades trying to reach that point and finally reach that point, and now be able to fully embrace and celebrate myself, my full humanity, my sexuality, and my family, there's never any issue with my family. Interestingly enough, there's never any issue with my neighbors or anybody I knew. The issues were all up here, and I finally got rid of them. It's been great, and it's been a fantastic journey. So I genuinely appreciate everybody listening in, joining in on the conversation, and being part of this. So I'm just going to unmute all of our hosts, and see if you guys have anything that that you would like to add, share. Well, first of all, tell us a little bit more about yourselves, how we can meet you, and any parting thoughts. So why don't we start with you, Pete?
Okay. To reach me, you can go to my website, which is PeteCossaboon.com. Of course, it's all about Pete, as you can tell. So that's PeteCossabon.com. If you want to hear more about me, oh my gosh, you can become my friend on Facebook. I run 2 different internet radio stations, and I have 3 or 4 shows on each one of those, and I have a few YouTube channels. So this, if you can't find Pete, then you're just not looking. So, and I just want to say that I really appreciate everybody watching and listening in, and this has been a fabulous evening, and thank you for letting me shine and tell my story and bring the spirit through it. I do want to say, like you said, Appio, I am at this point so happy and thankful for every single experience I've ever had in my entire life, because it has made me the man I am today. So
awesome. Thank you so much. You, Ashley, how can we get in touch with you?
You can go to my website, which is www.khalil.net, because everything is about Khalil for me. Khalil is Create a Life You Love. Or you can find me on Facebook. I'm there. Khalil. But Khalil is my movement, and it's really about helping people create a life they love. So I'm all about that, and I have my Camp Khalil, which is the next one coming up is in San Diego. I just got back from Mexico a couple weeks ago, and we'll be back in Mexico next year. So I am a big believer of that. Really, there's a lot you can gain through adventure, and I do some awesome transformation through adventure retreats. So come and seek me out, and also I do some online workshops. So I'm happy to be there for anyone who's looking for that kind of support to really up their game and create a life they love. So thank you so much, you guys, for having me, and it's been a pleasure being with the boys tonight.
It's been so fantastic having you here.
And Ashley also has a show on LGBTQtalkradio.com, Khalil, Create a Life You Love, as well.
Thank you, Pete.
And Appio has a show too, PJF, Passion, Joy, Fun, and LGBTQ Talk Radio.
That's true. Yes, thank you for that. And that's part of my passion as well. My passion right now. In fact, those are my keywords. Those are what I am all about: passion, joy, and fun. Reconnecting to you in a passion, living a life filled with joy, and having fun all along the way. I'm a speaker, writer, happiness coach. My nickname happens to be Happio for a reason. Those who know me can vouch for that. In fact, they're the ones who gave me that nickname, Appio. I can be found at appiohunter.com. That's A, P like Paul, I-O, hunter.com. I can also be found on Facebook, my Facebook page. If you want to befriend me, that's fine. I also have my Facebook page, Appio Hunter, your happiness champion, which is also on Facebook as well. It can be found on Google+, Twitter, at Appio Hunter. And just toss it out there. We'll be having a PJF experience in Park City, Utah this September 11th through 13th. Pete's going to be there speaking. I'm hoping that Ashley might be able to join us as well. I know that you have a Camp Khalil coming up in San Diego shortly after that. So, well, great. So that's I guess wraps it up. Anything else anybody else wants to quickly add, or?
Love, peace, release. Love to everyone.
Love to everyone. Thank you.
Passion, joy, fun. Oh, and a really quick thank you to Project Positive Change for sponsoring this and for being an amazing group of change makers, light workers, and just spreading the love around the world.
Yes, look up Project Positive Change on Facebook.
And thank you, Sean, for joining us as well.
Right, at journeytopositivechange.com.
Yes. And Sean, thank you. You guys have a great evening. Take care now.